It's easy to forget that I have sound that I can record. I can talk into the mic and speak into this video, communicate with you while I ride my electric unicycle. I don't know the exact date, but it's been approximately 2 months of riding. There was 4 weeks between learning to ride and then waiting for my electric unicycle to come, because I ordered the links. So I learned to ride on an InMotion V10F, and then I learned to ride on an InMotion V10F, rode for approximately 4 weeks, practicing approximately 5 hours each day, and then waited 5 weeks for the links to arrive with Next Gen Mobility, which is a discounted price. If you want to receive your links right away, there's E-Wheels, I think, is the company that you can order it and receive it very quickly if they have them in stock. I think it's called E-Wheels. I just ordered gloves from a company called E-Rides, if I recall correctly, so it's easy to get all the names mixed up. But my gloves are arriving tomorrow, and I think that company is called E-Rides. E-R-I-D-E-S, that's for the gloves. And then I'll make videos of those gloves. People are saying they think those are the best ones. They have wrist support that prevents your wrist from bending backwards, which can be taken out if you don't want that. And it has I'll call it a shock absorption pad in the front because it flexes. And those will arrive tomorrow. So I had a thought. I could be completely wrong, but I was thinking about the other night when there was an officer parked across from where I was practicing, and I had mentioned in that video, which I think is still uploading. I started uploading it yesterday, I think it was. But my videos take a long time to upload. I've spoke with AT&T about this because I have the 25 plan, 25 megabytes per second, I think it's called. So I just upgraded to the 50 megabytes per second. But a friend of mine, Robert, who works in telecommunications and works in electrical engineering and just knows a lot about electricity and about circuits, except free energy, apparently knows nothing about that, except that he understands that space, well, this is big. Robert understands, if you know who I'm talking about, Robert's Computer Hospital. Robert understands that space is an infinite power supply. He does understand that. He just doesn't understand any of the circuitry for free energy. But he does know for an absolute fact that space is a unlimited power supply. That's what he calls it. Unlimited power supply. So that's a UPS. Unlimited power supply. That's what space is. So if you want to future-proof your investments, that sounds like a good investment to me, because that seems to obsolete all technologies that are less than 100% efficient. Well, maybe not obsoletes them. It can power these old technologies. I remember reading about Bruce De Palma, who was taught at MIT and studied at Harvard, electrical engineering. And he learned that just spinning magnet, listen to this, I can't wait to share this with you. This is so interesting. He learned, Bruce De Palma learned that spinning a magnet in space, right here, this is space, right? Spinning a magnet. You know how our electric motors and our generators have a stator? What is it called? A stator and a rotor? By the way, my mouth is covered with a mask that may be muffling the sound a little bit. I'll find out when I listen to this video. Previous days, I did not have my mouth covered with the mask. I had it below my mouth. Today I'm covering my mouth with it because it's going to help keep my face warm. I have my whole face covered except my eyes. Oh, here I am at Ralph's. Ralph's closed 10 minutes early today. You know that sign on the door that says, what does it say? Required by law. I think it says something like required by law to remain unlocked during business hours. Well, this manager, I think that's what he is. He works there. He locked the door 10 minutes early, and there was a line of people outside. Not very happy about that. And that person seemed to think it was funny to have the door locked. That was a very strange situation. But there will be lots of phone calls tomorrow because everyone said they're going to call and complain about that. Because everyone wanted to get their last second flowers, bananas, fruit, whatever it was. Just pick up that one thing you need from the store. Anyway, let's see if I can find my train of thought I was talking about before. See if it'll come back. I was talking about my mask, covering my mouth, I think, and sound. Robert and the unlimited power supply. Isn't that interesting? Oh, I was talking about the police officer. So I was thinking about the police officer, and I mentioned to you that in the video that's still uploading, and who knows when you'll get this video, that police will sometimes watch me practice. And I realized what they might be doing. We're supposed to think positive things and polite things and nice things, right? And I like that. That's good. It's healthy. It's good. It's good for the mind. It's the opposite of paranoia, right? Paranoia, I think, is when we think of negative things, bad things, and we think everything's negative and bad, and right? And the opposite of that is optimism. I was thinking, I'm just going to say this because it's a thought. It would be interesting because I've seen videos where people will get pulled over on their electric unicycles extremely rarely, right? Very, very rare. And I don't think it's in California. I don't know what state that this is. I've seen this, but the officer will be so confused by what is an electric unicycle, like what is it? Or how does it fit into their books, right? But they always just want us to be careful. That's what they really are discussing. But I was thinking, I had this image in my mind that the officer that's, pulled over could be watching, just like fascinated, but also may be looking up the codes and trying to figure out, like, what is this thing? I don't know. It was an idea. And I'm not saying that is a good or a bad thing. It was just an observation. And just a thought. But we were riding with Ramen Rides a few days ago, and an officer pulled up and just basically said, "Be safe." He said, he just wants us to be safe. That's it. We were obeying all the laws, stopping and where we're supposed to stop, and just whatever, obeying all the laws. And the officer just said, just be safe. And you could hear it in his voice that he genuinely was concerned. Like, just wanted genuine, I think it's called heartfelt care, which is wonderful. And for the most part, if not completely, I think that's what officers are doing. I know it's different for the electric bikes. My friend Cameron has helped me understand that, like, I think it's called Surons, the Suron electric bikes, that in some states and some areas, I'm not sure where, they get pulled over a lot, and sometimes there'll be warnings issued, or maybe something different than a warning. I don't know. I haven't really watched that or studied that. I'm kind of busy learning how to ride my electric unicycle. But I will tell you this, a lot of people that ride the mountain bikes, mountain bikes are really, they do some amazing things, right? I've seen many advanced mountain bike riders just pull up on a trail and just be like, how do you ride that? Like, how do you do it? Like, it's as if the electric unicycle is defying the laws of physics, right? Whatever that means. You can't, by the way, defy the laws of physics, right? You can't. The fact is that when you have infinite energy and infinite information, if a wave, one single wave, one wave, contains infinite information, that's a scientific fact, meaning it's an observed and tested fact, okay? Then any talk of impossibility or breaking laws of physics is completely irrelevant and has nothing to do with the future, and has nothing to do with the potential of the present. So I was riding with the group today. Great ride. Went on a 40-mile ride, which I would say is the minimum ride I would want to do. Minimum. I did ask in the end if anyone wants to go on an after ride. I think everyone thought I was joking. It was neat how, to me, I only have, every single subscriber means a lot. And thank all of you for your subscriptions to this channel. And please keep making videos. I love watching your videos, all of you. It was shared with me that this perception that I was like famous or something because I have 23,000 subscribers as of this date. And I thought to myself, well, there's a lot of people that have a lot more subscribers than that. Now, is that a negative? Am I turning that into a negative? I'll tell you something, 23,000 subscribers is a lot. It is a lot. And anyone that has a YouTube channel that has any number of subscribers, even if you have 50 or 100, you know how hard it is to get those subscribers, to get people to subscribe, if I say it that way. Probably not the best way to word it. But to make content that contributes to people's curiosity and lives in such a way that they want to see more. And all I'm doing is sharing my interests, my passion for thinking and learning and understanding. And it's wonderful to share that journey with all of you. And it's wonderful to have sound. You guys finally get to hear my voice, hear me talk while I'm writing. I will say that everyone in my life right now, which includes people that I haven't seen in a while, right? It's everyone. Everyone I know and have known has been a part of this journey. So I want to thank all of you, and including all of you viewers, and all of you dedicated and committed learners, people that love to learn, right? With optimism and the awareness of infinite possibility, the awareness that you really can achieve anything. Now, you can find ways to look at things as impossible, and that's just how it is. Okay, but it's each person's choice to choose how we use our minds. Okay? So if you want to believe that we can't live forever, or that we can't live longer, much, much longer, or that we can't reverse aging, you can go through your life with that belief, or you can look into what's already being done and what has already been done. And some people want to know, how is it that reversing aging and living forever, or living 900 years, or forever, is not going to be just for people that are really, really wealthy, that can afford that, right? How is it more like a vaccine where everyone gets it if they want it, right? If they want it, they get it. So how do we have that? There's a professor, Patterson, that achieved great success in his reversing aging experiments of cells and greatly prolonging life. And he, to quote him, he said, "There is no limit to how long the human life can live." Now, when I say that, sometimes in the past when I've said that, people have said, "Oh, I would never want to live forever. I'll be old forever. I just will be old and sick." So I'm going to tell you that when I say live forever, or live much longer, or reversing aging, what we're talking about is no diseases, so disease-free, and keeping the cells in an optimal state, right? So what age do you want to be? Remember the store, Forever 21? Remember that store, Forever 21? How would you like to be 21 forever? Really? Actually. Now, people spend a lot of money on, I think the word is cosmetics, things you wear on your skin. But what if your skin itself was just so healthy? And not just your skin, but every part of your body. Not just the skin, right? What's inside of us? So I learned a long, long time ago by a gentleman that studies and researches continuously his whole life, collected a lot of information, that the mitochondria inside inside of each cell, the mitochondria has now, I don't know exactly what this means, but it was explained to me that the mitochondria has a perfect memory of being perfectly healthy. And that's even in cancer cells. Like, it doesn't matter what cell it is. Okay? That doesn't matter what cell it is. It could be a sick cell or a healthy cell. It could be a healthy cell that's 90 years old. I mean, in a 90-year-old person, right? Or a 100-year-old person. So, I'm just thinking right now, if I bump this pedal on something, I will be on the ground in less than a second. On the ground. It's happened before. I was going on a mountain bike trail, and I went up high in the mountain, in the trail, probably, when I say high, I mean maybe 20 feet up, and there's a cut into the mountain, like cut into it, a little path, but because the dirt was really close to the path that was steep, like vertical, right, I hit my pedal on that, because otherwise I'm going to go off the edge, right? I'm on the edge of the mountain right here, the edge on this side, and this side's the dirt. So I chose to ride close to the dirt, but I bumped the dirt, I bumped it, and it turned the electric unicycle toward the mountain, and then I counter steered, I turned the other way, so I wouldn't crash, right? And then that essentially made me crash. Well, here's what happened. I hit the mountain, turned left, and then quickly turned right because I was going to go off the hill. And when I turned left and then turned right, the wheel slid down a little bit into the soft dirt. And next thing I know, and I was talking in the video, I think that was, that was the GoPro Hero 7, so the sound wasn't very good. The camera was mounted on the side of the helmet, I think. Yeah, it was. I think it was. Yeah, actually, it was up here. It was on that bar, that big long bar that came out, and that allowed me to see the screen, which I liked. But now with the Insta 360, I think it's called the Insta 360 Ace Pro, with that camera, I have the GPS system, which I don't have it hooked up yet, but I plan to put that on. That's going to let me see the point of view or the exact frame that the camera sees at all times. So I might put that either on my wrist or in front of the screen, like in front of my, somewhere in the helmet up here. I might use the PID Zoom rear view mirror mounts, one of those. I saw someone do that. Louis did that with LA PEV, I think it's called, that group. Louis, I'm gonna call him a lifesaver. That's the figure of speech that we use. That gentleman is so knowledgeable about cameras, and he said that the Insta 360 Ace Pro, I think that's what it's called. He said that's the one to get. He said he's been running GoPro for so long, and I don't have the greatest experiences with GoPro. GoPro will give me a great picture, but I've had where the GoPro didn't record sound once for me. Oops, see, I almost crashed right there. That was almost a crash. Now, when I say crash, I probably just would have stepped off the unicycle and it would have fallen over. But that's my low-speed fall. I almost did it. I fell there before. When I first started riding the links, I went around that curve and lost my balance. Because my mind was like, oh, I got this, I got it. But no, I know better than that. I know to never think I got it, right? Not to think that on anything that I'm riding on. Like whether it be a bicycle, a motorcycle, or an electric unicycle, right? Now, how wonderful would it be if we had... I know we have lots of bike paths, I know. But how wonderful would it be if we had more bike paths? We really need it. And you know what? One person makes a difference. In so many instances, it was one man's dedication, one person dedication and commitment to a project that gave us an amazingly beautiful bike path, right? I'll show you the story sometime. LA River Bike Path. I'm going to show you the story over there. There's a plaque that tells the story of a gentleman that it said he did the impossible. Who knows what he went through to get that, to help make that happen. But it just shows that you can make a difference. Everyone can. And when we work together to build things, amazing things happen. I mean, look at the world we live in. Look how beautiful it is and how amazing it is. And I see war. I'm going to talk about this a lot. At least right now. I know I have a lot to learn. I'm still very young. People call me a kid. I don't know what that means. But I get it, you know. I have a lot to learn. That's okay. I like learning. Lost my train of thought. It'll come back. What was I saying last? I was saying... I think I might have been talking about the GoPro. So one time I didn't have sound. This is years ago, right? And that frustrated me a lot because I was talking about so many things that were so important to me, and I really struggled with finding the words to say what I was sharing. I think now I get less frustrated with that. Like, maybe I've become used to it with having trouble with sound. And when I got the Insta360 Ace Pro in the past, just recently, past couple days, I was recording sound and I was saying, I don't know if the sound's recording right now. I just don't know. I hope it is. And when I went back, when I loaded the video onto, first loading it to the phone and then loading it to YouTube, I could hear the sound. Well, I heard it right away on the phone when I played it back. And I thought, this is wonderful. And Louis made that possible. And that's something I do more of nowadays, is if someone has done the research, I don't need to do it all over again. I mean, I could look and glance at things, but I'm just going to be checking the facts that they've already shared with me, you know. And that's what I did. I saw this looks good. I go, okay, let's go. Let's go ahead and make that decision to move forward with improved sound, right? And it is good. So Louis said that his GoPros were overheating when he used the external mic on it. And I know my GoPro, well, I had the GoPro Hero 7 Silver. I don't know if it's called Hero, but it's GoPro 7 Silver. Are they all Heroes? I don't know. But that one would just get really, really super hot, and I wasn't even using an external mic on it. It would get so hot I almost couldn't touch it. And I was recording at the lowest resolution. I think it was 1080p, right? The lowest setting, because I just like things to load quick, that's why. And the visible quality looked good to me, you know. Now, I recorded some videos earlier this evening on a 40-mile ride that I participated in with EUC PEV, which I think is Orange County Personal Electric Vehicles. And there was, Jay was riding an electric unicycle. I think he's riding the Master Pro, which is a really, really big battery. But he also said that weighs like well over 100 pounds, and it's just really, really heavy, and it wants to fall over. He made it sound like it was top heavy. Maybe it is. Maybe it is top heavy. He said it's like a motorcycle, and motorcycles can feel like they want to fall over, right? They can feel top heavy sometimes. It's called the center of gravity. Having that center of gravity as low as possible is really helpful. Now with the Lynx, when I bought it, a lot of people were putting the drop down pedals on it, where you can drop the pedals down. I don't know if it's like 1 inch, 2 inches, or 1.5 inches, or there's choices maybe of how much you can drop the pedals down. But because I had heard of so many situations and seen video of people clipping the pedals on the ground, not on the side of the mountain like I told you what I did with the Lynx, where I hit the side of the mountain, right? That's different. No matter how high your electric unicycle is, if there's something on the side, that's still going to hit the pedal, right? But I'm talking about where the dirt, let's say you're going up a steep hill, right, and the pedal hits that incline, that can make a person crash. So I thought, let me leave the pedals where they are. Lynx designed it this way, and if I don't like it, I can always add the drop downs later, the drop down pedal extenders. So I learned to ride this with the pedals high, and so because I hadn't ever ridden it with the pedals low, I don't think I was really getting used to anything. It wasn't like an adjustment or anything to me. Even though I rode the V10F, which is what I learned on, that was a lot closer to the ground. But that's an entirely different electric unicycle. It's just really much smaller. And great for learning on. Highly recommend it for learning on. Now, I was starting to talk about how in the video where I was riding with the Orange County Personal Electric Vehicle group, which was wonderful to ride with that group, I wasn't talking in the video, I wasn't talking to the recording, I wasn't speaking to you. I don't know if I did at all. I don't think I did at all. Now, the reason for that is I was completely focused on writing. Completely focused on just writing and being safe. Not hitting the person in front of me, which often was Jay on his Master Pro, which is one of the largest batteries you can get in an electric unicycle. I almost bought a Master Pro. There's a version 1, version 2, version 3. But I went with the Lynx because it had really good suspension, if not the best suspension for off-road. Handles really well on-road. But what's more popular from most people, I mean, some people still like the Lynx as number 1 because they want absolute lightweight. If you want absolute lightweight, then the Lynx, I think, is the one. It's 88 pounds. That's pretty light for an electric unicycle that has these capabilities. But if you want 50% more range, 50% more battery, 50% more range, and everything else the Lynx still has, with even more stability, people say, right? The professionals say that the added weight, which I think is only approximately 10 pounds, 13 pounds more weight with the Sherman L, it's called. Still made of magnesium, still the lightweight materials, same good batteries, same good electronics, and 50% more range. So I want to sell the Lynx. I'd like to sell the Lynx and buy the Sherman L. And that extra weight gives even more stability. That's what's being said. Is it just the greater weight, or is there other things that make it more stable? Because, for example, Roger EUC made a video where he has the Lynx and the Sherman L side by side, and he holds, I'll call it the body of the EUC electric unicycle, and then moves the wheel left and right. Right, because Brian, the racer, the professional racer, Brian, he's able to move that wheel, like move it like left and right on the Lynx, and doesn't like that. I mean, to me, if that's not there for a reason, then why is it there? Because everyone wants the most stable electric unicycle they can possibly have. And when that wheel can move like that, I just don't see how that helps with stability. But the Sherman L, when Roger EUC YouTube channel, when Roger moved that wheel back and forth, it looked like it moved less on the Sherman L. So you have more stability, 50% more range, still the good battery that the Lynx has, still the good everything the Lynx has. And Roger can ride it. He made videos of riding that on the Fullerton loop. And he's able to do, it looked like he could do everything with it. Everything he could do in the Lynx. So it didn't really show that it had that extra weight, that extra 13 pounds. And I thought to myself, I could lose 13 pounds and ride the Sherman L. I'll just lose 13 pounds. And then overall, it'll be the same weight, right? Because I want to lose a little bit of weight anyway. Oops, there's a pole right there. That would really be painful to run into one of those. I don't think those should be there. I think they put them there so cars won't go through here. But if a car really wants to go through there, they're going to. I don't know what that really does. It just seems like something someone could run into if they're, let's say they're preoccupied watching for people, like in the sunset time, in the morning and sunset time, right? Both those times. This area is so full of people walking and riding bikes. And you just know, looking at those poles, that someone's hit them. They've been hit. And I hope they haven't, but I just don't see what they do there. other than cause a hazard for people where they can be potentially injured by it. Okay, let's go ahead and see if I can practice my carving again. So I wasn't talking in the video earlier on that group ride that's still loading, because like I was saying, I was just concentrating on riding. Now it's right now, today I'll call it, I brought my sunglasses because the sun likes to rise when I'm riding my electric unicycle. Now how does that happen? How could it be like 2:30 in the morning, I go for a ride, next thing I know the sun's coming up? Now is the sun actually coming up, or is the earth turning toward the sun, giving the appearance that the sun is rising, right? I think that's what's happening. Yet we say the sun's rising. Welcome to reality. Going back to reality, is there an energy shortage by choice, or is there an energy shortage by necessity? And what's the difference? A lot of people say that we talk about solutions, which is good, but what's essential to talking about solutions is pairing that experience with action, and action in our own lives. It doesn't have to be an action of telling other people what to do. It could be an action of sharing one's own experience. Someone was just telling me that they were being told that charging an electric vehicle costs a lot more money than filling up a gasoline car. And I'm just thinking to myself, how could it be that could be believed? I mean, the calculations have been made, but again, I volunteer with Plug in America, and they share all that knowledge with everybody. It's common knowledge that driving an electric vehicle costs 1 to 2 pennies a mile for each mile that you drive, and driving a gasoline car costs over 10 cents per mile.
You have a bright light.
Yeah. He said I have a bright light. I was in deep thought right there, so I didn't really talk to him. I probably could have talked to him. He seemed like a friendly person. Okay, what was I saying? What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, 1 to 2 pennies per mile. And that's to charge an electric vehicle. Now, on a gas car, the biggest expense... Well, what is the biggest expense? Is it gasoline or maintenance? Because maintenance is really high on gasoline cars. It's difficult for me not to look at a gasoline car as kind of like having endless access to people's bank accounts, because there's books that have been written on this information has been shared with me, that people will take care of their cars. It's like top priority, right? Taking care of their car. They'll take care of their car better than they take care of their own health. And you could see this all over the place, right? You see people fixing their cars up without end, and won't take care of their own health, though, right? Won't take care of their own health. Now, what does that mean? It means eating healthy, exercise, and doing one's best to make healthy decisions. right? That bring good health and good peace of mind and low stress to the life, right? Now, if taking care of some of your car is a top priority, and how do you take care of your car? With the bank account, right? That just means access to your money, right? And people spend, there's a story that I almost can't even tell you. It's just so painful to just talk about it. It's so painful. True story. And I'll get this information for you. I have it all, it's all noted down. There's a Toyota dealership. I don't know if it's in Riverside or where it is exactly at the moment. It's everything's written down though. And then the name of the person, I don't know if it's Jonathan but I have it all written down. Was telling such stories as, okay, so the vehicle is a Toyota. Okay, now Toyotas, a lot of people know about Toyota, right? Toyota, what do they know about Toyota? They last a long time. They have Toyota's one of those cars. Now, I'm just sharing with you, how can I say this? I'm going to share with you my opinion and also my experience in talking to people. Okay, and growing up around people that built cars and built race engines and just all that into racing and building engines and rebuilding engines and building things, okay? That's part of it, because I also grew up consulting with NASA scientists and engineers because I just loved doing that. So I had access to that too. So Toyota, my thoughts about a Toyota is it's a kind of car that if you keep oil in it, and this is how I was taught, if you keep fluids in it, keep the fluids full where they belong, right, where they're supposed to be. That's the maintenance you do. Now, if you go to a dealership, they'll have like these charts that show at certain miles you do certain things, right? But I'll tell you something. I bought a used Toyota, and more than one occasion, where I bought it from the original owner. And those previous owners had almost no maintenance done to those vehicles, except oil changes and keeping the fluids topped off, right? Not changing all those things, like those long lists, those maintenance lists. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do that, okay? I'm not telling you what to do. You know, if you want to take care of your car and if you need it to be in optimal condition. Also, because I grew up around vehicles, if something broke, I could probably figure out how to fix it. And a lot of people can. You just open up a YouTube video and you're going to figure out how to change a belt or adjust a belt on an engine or do a tune-up, right? If you want to, right? But this particular person that I'm sharing this story about was taking their Toyota to a dealership that may have been in Riverside, and it may have been the name Jonathan comes to mind. But this is my guess right now. We'll call it a guess because I don't have it. I'm not looking at my notes. But the story was shared with me many times. Okay, and what happened was this particular person who was in charge of the service department was telling this girl who's a doctor, right? And they would know that she's a doctor because she wears the uniform, she wears the clothing. They would say things like, if you don't change this part on your engine, the car could blow up any time and it could kill her. This is the way they would talk to her. How could someone say that? Especially when it wasn't true. Because what she finally did after going through this for years and spending over $10,000 a year maintaining a Toyota, right? Spending over $10,000 a year maintaining a new Toyota. Because the car was bought new. And they started doing this, saying all these things about having to, needing parts. Now, it's probably right when the car was out of warranty or something, right? So it's probably just out of the warranty, and they're saying it needs all these things, right? But Toyotas are known for running hundreds of thousands of miles without any trouble, especially when they're taken care of. They just are known for that. So when this girl took the car to a second opinion, they said there's nothing wrong with your car. So she started going somewhere else to have it serviced. But knowing that that's done, and I've heard this before, people call them horror stories. I know someone that owns a parts store. I've told this story so many times. Oh goodness. But maybe this is the first time you actually could hear my voice, so I'll tell it again. I know someone that owns a parts store. They've worked in this business their whole life, and this person told me that owns a parts store, auto parts store, said that 80% of the mechanics out there, 80% of them, are absolute crooks. This is coming from someone that owns a parts store and deals with these people directly, right? Supplies parts to them. And he said there's no way to tell. It could be the nicest looking person, like looks like a nice person, smiles, friendly, but is selling you things that you don't need. And I remember when I was a kid, there used to be, I don't know if it was like the news channels doing it, the news stations, or who was doing the investigations, like if they were journalists doing it. I don't remember who it was, but they were randomly doing these where they would go and like, let's say they go to Sears, right? Sears, and say, can you check my car? I want to make sure it doesn't need anything. And they kept finding that all of these places they tested, that they did this experiment with, were saying that they needed a bunch of things that they didn't need. Like say they need brakes. They didn't need brakes. And they say, no, it needs brakes. It needs it. You got to do it now. And it would be a lot of money too. And anyway, it's sad. I feel sad about that because I happen to know, I've actually had experiences myself where a mechanic, I went to a new mechanic because I have my own mechanic, but I went to a new mechanic. I'm going to tell you one experience I had where the mechanic, I said, just change the oil. And when they changed the oil, so I changed it myself, right? And when if you know anything about threads, when you're screwing a bolt in, you'll know that if you're cross-threading it, you know it because it's really hard to tighten, right? Well, I changed the oil myself the last time, and then this time I wanted to have a mechanic do it, right? I thought, let me just have someone do it for me, because you could find a place that will charge like $10 or $15 sometimes, right? I mean, I don't know if they still have that, but if you look around, you'll see a coupon or something. So I went to this place, and then I thought, okay, when it was time to change it again, I brought it to the same place, and they said, you need a new oil pan. And I said, why do I need a new oil pan? What do you mean? They said, well, your bolt is cross-threaded. Whoever changed the oil cross-threaded it. I said, you guys were the last ones to change the oil, and before that I changed it, and I put that in by hand. What that means is you can start the threads by hand and get it as tight as you can by hand, and then tighten it down with a tool after that. And you don't want to go too tight, right? You just get it like snug. There's torque specs. There's specs to that. You can look those up. So he said, oh, let me talk to the mechanic. And I was so upset. I thought, geez, I can't believe this. These guys cross-threaded this thing And they're telling me I need an oil pan, and they said, yeah, it's ruined. And I said, well, I changed it before you guys did it last, and before that I changed it, and it wasn't stripped then, and no one's touched it but you guys. They said, well, we'll try to put it in there, we'll see if we could save it. So they tried to put it back in the proper way, and they said it was weak, which means my oil could randomly just leak out, if that's, but I didn't want to deal with calling the Better Business Bureau, and you can report all that stuff, right, when things like that happen. And some people do. I've watched business mechanic shops get closed down and then just open up in a different name. Same people work there. I've seen that happen. And I've seen mechanics forced, I'm going to say it that way, to paint parts and not even change the parts, just painting them, saying they're new. So long story short, this is one of the things that I like about electric cars, is that it doesn't have all those things that can go wrong on gasoline vehicles, gasoline-powered internal combustion engines, which is so puzzling to me why Toyota is talking about the water car or the hydrogen car, because that's the same technology. They just want to run it on hydrogen instead of running it on, running carbon through there. Because gasoline is carbon and hydrogen, right? Carbon doesn't do anything, so why are we putting it in there? Carbon doesn't contribute to moving the vehicle. And I've even heard people say there has to be carbon in there for it to work. That's not true. If you talk to a chemist, which I have, without even asking a chemist came to me and said, carbon does nothing. It's the hydrogen that does everything. And I was running a water fuel technology system on my vehicle at the time, and he was saying that's your fuel. The hydrogen is the fuel. So water is more of a fuel than gasoline is. Gasoline's not even a fuel. I mean, it works because we process it so much. We make it. We found a way to make the hydrogen burn, even though it's connected to what I'll call an irrelevant, I guess I'll call it an atom, right? The atom carbon. How interesting is it that carbon is what we are? We're carbon-based, right? And 99% of the molecules in the human body are water, H2O. 99% of the molecules in the human body are water, H2O. Now, I could be hallucinating, but I feel like I see what could be a police car hiding over there in the bushes. Now, if there's no cars, I'm going to go ahead and cross. Sometimes the police cars will sit in the bus area. That's a bus lane to my left on the other side of those bushes. And I see the lights on, but I don't know if it's in that area or if it's on the other side, on the other street. We'll see if we can see through these bushes, though. It looks like a cop car. Yeah, it's a cop car. I don't want to be staring at him. But if he comes and pulls me over, you'll get to see him then. But I'm not doing anything wrong as far as I know. Bicycles are allowed to go through, if I understand correctly, are allowed to go through red lights and stop signs if there's no cars present. That's in many states. Please confirm that for yourself. And they found that that's, even though people at first glance and first hearing of that think, oh, they're gonna get killed, they're gonna get hit. But when you research it, you find out it's actually much safer for them, because if a bicycle is just sitting there at a red light, they get taken out. It's like bowling pins getting hit. The cars just hit them, run them over. It's been happening for the past 100 years. Bicyclists just getting run over. It's absolutely terrible. And I think it's one of the reasons they make bike lanes with barriers so often. And that is essential. That's very necessary. It's completely necessary for all bike paths and bike lanes. Well, anywhere there's a car next to a bicycle lane, or there's a car lane next to a bicycle lane, there needs to be a barrier. Like right here, there's no barriers. But what they could do with this is they could move the cars' parking spaces out and have the bike lane on that side. There's a lot of streets that do that, and it works very well. It's a good way to do it. They did it in Santa Monica, in many places. And that protects the bicyclists, or micromobility, right? It protects them. Okay. See if I can practice carving a little bit. By the way, it makes a significant difference when I go these speeds I'm going right now, which I'm guessing is like 20 miles an hour, 20 to 25 miles per hour. The battery lasts so much longer compared to going like 40 or 45 miles per hour. It drains the battery so quick. I mean, this battery will deplete in like 40 miles on the links if I'm doing 40 to 45 miles per hour and just cruising at those speeds. And that's just not enough. That's not enough range. So I carry a charger around with me on the big rides. I used my credit card earlier this evening to pay for an electric vehicle charging station, and it was free. It didn't charge me after I was done charging. It didn't charge me, and I didn't understand that. I guess some chargers are free, right? You just have to create an account. Okay, I just went through a spider web. It was just one piece. I saw it going across. Now look how low this is. This has not been trimmed. My desire to bring my tree trimming, where I can cut the branch, cut these little, I have such a strong desire to do that. It's just that when I come out to ride, I don't want to be cutting the branches and be, I just don't really want to do that. And there's a team of people, like a fleet of people that do that. That's their job, to clean those out. And they're just, I don't know why they just don't do it. I don't know why it's not getting done. That particular area, I've only seen it trimmed like once in the past several months. Otherwise, they just let the branches hang down right there. And they hang way, way down. And I've seen them get all the way down where they're almost touching the ground. So it doesn't really make sense why it's not being trimmed. I just get burned out on making phone calls because I've called like 40 different phone numbers. They send me in circles. They send me in circles of who to call and who to ask to, please fix the lights, please trim the trees higher so they're not hitting us on the top of the head as we're passing through the paths. It's just exhausting. But I mention that because anyone can call, so I still don't know what this bike path is called right now. I know I've read it to you before. Like at the very end of this thing, if we go like 20 miles, I know there's a sign down there. But I feel like there should be a sign at each block, right? Each entrance and exit where the street begins and ends on every time we cross an intersection. Just like cars, right? Car lanes. Every intersection has a street name. But on the bike paths, they're just not labeled. The most we get is a sign that says no motor vehicles, right? Excuse me, they don't want cars on these paths. And they don't want like the gasoline powered anything, whether it be a gasoline powered bicycle or, I think that's what they said. I've seen some gasoline powered bicycles right on here and that are real quiet, and they said they haven't had trouble, although they have said they've been pulled over and the police will talk to them. That happens sometimes. So I'm not sure how that works because but if you're electric bicycle, then that's quiet and gives you the choice of pedaling if you have pedals, which is nice. Now this looks cleared out right here. It looks like everything's trimmed way up. See this? This has been low before. These have been down here, like back that last block. The last block I just was talking about and showed you in the video. These hung down that low before, and they trimmed them up. So I don't know. I don't understand what the plan is. Like, are they like, no, we're just going to trim this area once a year? You know, like I don't get it. I just don't. But when I was talking to the man that he cleans the ground here, like he has a truck that he drives through here, and it picks up all the dirt on the path. He was really upset because I said, who can I call to ask about these trees getting trimmed? And he was upset. He said, yeah, call the Department of Transportation. He said they can get it done. He said those branches are so low they break the lights off his truck all the time. Imagine that. He has a small truck, but the branches hang down so low it's ripping the lights off the top of his truck. So it just looks like the bike paths are or have been in the past. I want to use the word neglected. It's like a street that just has potholes everywhere, and it's just like, how does this happen? And if you go through like a rich area, like, you know, let's say you go down an area where the houses are like all several $1 million. And is that a rich area? I don't know. But it's just nice houses, right? And then the street has potholes everywhere. And I'm just like, how does this work? How, are people not calling in and saying, can someone please fix this? You know, I don't know how all that stuff works, you know, and I don't know how it works with the bike paths getting properly maintained. See, you can tell this has been trimmed. See that tree, how high up that is? Now there's other blocks, like the one back there by LA City College. There's more than one LA City College, okay, but this LA City College that I just passed, the block before that school, before we got to that intersection, the branches were hanging way down, and they've been like that for many months. And it's so rare that I've seen that block that I've seen the trees trimmed up high like this. It's so rare. I mean, I think just maybe once in the past year. And that doesn't make sense because people come through these paths every day. So are they just driving right through that area? And why is there, like, what is it, a policy of do not touch this tree or something? I don't get it. Because it can look that way. It can look that way when certain trees just aren't trimmed. And then the imagination could make up stories like, oh, well, do they have to like make sure that there's at least one tree that's not trimmed so they can come back another day? I don't know how it works. I mean, that doesn't really make sense. But someone was telling me a story about how, let's say someone overbids for paving a street. This is a story that was shared with me once. If someone is what's it called? Estimate? You do an estimate on paving a street, and the amount was too high, so there's extra money. So they'll dig the street up and pave it 2 or 3 times to use that money up. That's weird, isn't it? That's a strange story. And it was said to be true. I don't have proof of that, meaning I didn't see paperwork. I didn't ask for it. But I would think it'd be better to say, well, can we use the remaining funds to fix whatever's next on the list, right? Meaning, what's another street that needs work? Instead of just trying to use the money up on a street that's already been fixed and doing it 2 or 3 times. Very strange. This street looks extremely clean. This whole area looks very, very clean. You could tell a lot of work goes into maintaining the parts of the bike path that are maintained. Like whatever team did this, you could tell they put a lot of work into it. This whole block, it looks really good. So I've gone 13 miles and I'm doing 13 miles per hour, 15 miles per hour. I don't want to carve where there's leaves. Those aren't leaves, but there's something like a leaf. They're whatever they're called from these trees here. It's from the trees. It's the equivalent of a leaf. It's something interfering with the traction of the tire reaching the ground, the pavement. And it's very slippery. And if I'm carving left and right, if I do that, I could just slip. Now this next street, these branches are always low. Okay, so this is Van Nuys Boulevard and Busway. And this is, I think, the area of Van Nuys, right? I think that's what it's called. Van Nuys Boulevard and Busway. Now, this next street I can already see. I can already see that it's trimmed, but not high. They didn't trim it up high. See? Look how low this is. See this? I mean, it makes no sense why they're not trimming it up higher. And if it means they have to cut some of the big branches, then cut the big branches. This is trimmed up a little bit more. But this should be at least 2 or 3 more feet up. Or 5 feet up. It shouldn't even be close to us. Like this one right here, look at this. Look how low this is. See this? And this too. So if someone wants a project, I think of Captain Planet. Captain Planet, he's our hero. Gonna take, I think, emissions down to 0. I think that's the song. There's Captain Planet Planeteers throughout the world. That are doing their good deeds, right? Trying to make the world a better place. And if you want to call this in, and you have the time, or if you don't have the time but you want to do this, you want to call this in, you can make it your mission. Here's more trees that are hanging really low. This doesn't make any sense. I mean, how do the trucks just not trim some of the trees? I don't get it. So I just ducked down or I would have hit that. So I'll write next to these so you can see that they're lower than the camera, right? See these? Right there. Right there. I've seen people ride their bicycles through here and just get smacked right in the face with these branches. Because you're supposed to be studying the ground, because there's rocks on the ground, or there could be like pine cones sometimes, or something like that, right? I don't know if there's pine trees here, but I've seen things that look like a pine cone or a rock. You have to, when you're riding a bike, this is a bike path. When you're riding a bike, your eyes are supposed to be on the ground and in front of you. Okay, that's for safety. If you don't watch the ground and you run something over, it can make you lose control. But on these paths, you have to look up. And how do you look up and down? You just look up, down, up, down, up, down. I mean, it's just, these paths just aren't properly maintained at all. And when you see vehicles, like motor vehicles on streets, when you see those streets, a street light goes out, how quickly is it taken care of? And most the lights on any street work, right? So 1 or 2 might be not working and they fix them. But Here we have whole entire blocks where there's no light. Like right now, look at all these lights. There's a light like every, I don't know if it's every 30 yards approximately. But there's just no light. And this needs to be lit for safety. It's not safe to not have light here. This whole bike path should be lit up. And it's been this way for years. Many, many, many years. Here's another branch that didn't get trimmed up. See this? I had the duck down, so I didn't get the camera pulled off the helmet. Now another solution to the bike paths is where there's lots of trees, they can build something around the bike path that doesn't allow the trees to enter into the bike path area, and that could be a solution. You know, there's always more than one way to approach a challenge, and I call it the engineer's mantra. The engineer's mantra is there's always another way, right? That is because we live in an infinite possibility universe. That's just how it is. It's reality. That sound, that if you hear that flapping sound, that's my mask, which goes around, it goes over my head, it goes around my neck, it goes around my whole, that whole area. And it part of it is because it's not long. I would like it to be much longer, so it goes like inside my shirt, but it seems to stop like right at the collar of my shirt. And so what happens when I'm riding is it flaps around. You can hear it flapping. I don't know if you hear that. I have the sound set to -6 decibels, so it's at -6 on the camera, on the Insta360 Ace Pro. And what I've noticed is that helps. It seems that what it's doing is helping reduce or completely eliminate any sound, for the most part, that is not my voice, right? Because the microphone is right next to my mouth, like an inch away from my mouth, from my lips. So when I speak, I'm speaking very close to the microphone. And then the sound, for example, of my environment, or even my mask, I'll call it, which is also a neck, covers my neck. The reason I like it covering my neck is the sun. I don't want the sun reaching my skin on my neck. I met a gentleman, I won't say his name, that had got melanoma on his neck. That's skin cancer on his neck. And guess what happened? It caused cancer in his lymph nodes. So he had to have surgery. So we had this really aggressive surgery, aggressive treatment. Now, I'm starting, I did my 30-day free trial. There's 15-day and 30-day free trial on Tom Palladino. scalar light healing. Now, before I talk about Tom Palladino and what he's doing, I'm going to share with you something I learned in Energy from the Vacuum series. I think that's where I learned this. I learned it from many sources. That's just one place that it was mentioned as well, okay? But how do I say this? There's a way to make, I'm not going to be able to explain this very well because I just don't understand enough about the wording, and basically I don't have a good image of how to basically translate what I've learned into communication of this idea with you. But there was this device that let's say you put a photograph of someone on this device, right? Now this device is connected to a frequency, I'm going to call it a frequency generator. Whatever you put in contact with this copper, here's the copper again, right? Where else do we use copper? In power generation, all power generation, all of it, my understanding, is translating space energy into, which is infinite potential energy, right? Infinite power supply. It's translating small amounts of that energy into usable energy that we use for whatever needs we have, okay? You want to hear an interesting story? Ask an electrical engineer, ask him what is voltage and what is amperage. Oh goodness. And then just keep asking different people, different scientists, what is voltage, what is amperage, what is energy? Ask everyone that. And then ask a philosopher that too, right? What is energy, what is voltage, what is amperage? And see what each person says, and then write a book about it. Write a lot of books about it. So if we can put a picture of someone on this in contact with copper, this copper plate is connected to a frequency generator, I'll call it. I'm not sure what the proper name is. It's been a while since I learned about this. But it can make a person, you can affect how they feel. You can make them feel good, or help them to feel, in better health. And my understanding with Tom Palladino is that the technology cannot be used to harm. It can only be used for good. So you can't cause harm to anybody, but you can help someone to feel better, right? And I don't know if it always works or most of the time it works. I think it works most of the time. That's my thoughts. But it's like everything else. Like when you go to the doctors and they give you medication, does it always work? And does it always work the same for everyone? No. So I'm not going to call it a cure. I'm going to call it something interesting to look into. But the person that had these health concerns, I'll call them, that I was just telling you about, when I told them there's a free trial with the Tom Palladino research, I'm calling it research, I was hoping that this person might look into it and might consider it, because they're not asking for any payment information, they're not asking for your personal information, and I'm curious myself to know how it could affect people, because it helped me, right? I'll give you an example. My eyesight, I wear the lowest prescription glasses, the lowest one, which is so low that I can drive without using it. It's that one. Like, I can still see everything. I can actually see the chart perfectly, but they did a test on the machine Like when I did the test at the DMV, I passed everything, right? But when I did the test in the machine, when you look in the machine at the eye doctor, they said that test said that I could use, if I want to, a very light prescription. It's like the lightest you can get, right? And they said it's my choice whether I use it or not. I think it's just for looking at things really close, is what it was for, right? You want to hear something interesting? When I did the 30-day free trial, my eyesight immediately cleared up. Immediately. Nothing was blurry at all. I was like, whoa. Now, have you ever heard You Are the Placebo? It's supposed to be a book, right? I've heard a lot about this, about people's experiences, believing in things, and just believing can make it happen. And my thought on that is, well, if it took this experience to get me to believe, that's fine with me, right? Imagine having cancer, and you're like, there's a couple different things people do. One is don't tell me if I have cancer. I don't want to know, because I'll be depressed and I'll get worse. The other one is, what's the other one people can do? Well, I lost my train of thought, but people can be afraid of getting depressed and then getting worse, right? So here's the thing. If a person has cancer, this is the thought I have, right? And I'm going to create a scenario right now, because I'm going to talk about people that have money, right? That have a lot of money saved. Like, I knew someone that had millions of dollars, and he said he would give every penny he had if he could live longer, and especially if he could live much longer, and especially if he could live forever. He would give all his money for that. The interesting thing, though, is when I told him there's researchers doing research on this and having great success in like their experiments they're doing, and I said, are you interested in investing in that, if I say it that way, right? Investing or contributing to this research. They didn't seem to be interested in helping people that were actually doing that work. They just wanted to buy kind of like this package that would just give them eternal life, right? Then they'll give every penny for that. But I'm talking about one specific person. People are all different, right? So there could be infinite variations of that in reality. Now, if a person had a lot of money, though, and they wanted to do something like this to see if the scalar light, it's called scalar light, right? So Tom Palladino continued the work of Nikola Tesla. And a lot of people actually are continuing the work of Nikola Tesla. There's a lot of people doing that in the world. Now, Tom Palladino's working with scalar light, which scalar light is it's a lot of research, right? It's a body of work. It's a lifetime of research, and you have to look for yourself at what it is. I'm going to ask you, if you're curious, look into it. Look into Tom Palladino. He's on Facebook. He also has a website. And look into scalar light, right? Scalar light is SCALAR, and then a separate word is LIGHT, light, like light, right? Like let there be light. Scalar light. Nikola Tesla was working with this, and Tom Palladino is working with this. And when I told this gentleman that just was in remission from melanoma, had surgeries, had aggressive treatment, they didn't want to, they weren't interested. They weren't interested in it. Exact words, I'll pass. And I'm just thinking to myself, you'll pass. Okay. I mean, I'm not asking them to do anything. I'm just trying to share an awareness. what I'm hearing is I'll pass on life. You know, oh, live? I'll pass on that. Who wants to do that? I could take it or leave it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm hearing, you know. But in my mind, life is so great. Every moment, every breath, every day, every life. And I'm going to say this as I have before. There was a famous and wealthy person, and I mean one of the wealthiest in the world, okay, in terms of monetary or gold and that kind of value, like what I'll call monetary value, right? Whether it be in gold or jewels or actual money. I'll call it money notes, right? Money notes. That's what money's a note, right? It's also a note, I mean. It's also could be gold, it could be silver, it could be diamonds, value, something of great that we recognize as valuable. This person said, all of my wealth, all of it, for one more moment. Because it was their dying breath when they said that. That was their last words. Okay, this is well documented, and it did happen. It was said. And what a choice of words, right? And what a choice of timing, if it was a choice to choose that moment to say that. Or if it was just like that moment allowed them to realize how much they valued every moment. And how much do you value every breath you take? Every thought you make? Every collaboration that you participate in? Everything you build? What are we doing here? What is the new world to you, right? When I hear someone say, oh, the world's just destroying itself, I'm just going to sit back and watch it like implode, watch it self-destruct, right? That when I hear this, when I hear someone say this, which has been quite a while since I've heard someone say that, by the way, but I did hear it a lot when I was growing up. I was like, wow, why is this so popular for people to say that? Or so unpopular? But it's, to me, I'm hearing someone say, I'll pass. It's like, oh, live a quality life, be happy? Oh, I'll pass, you know. I'll pass on that. I don't need to be happy. I'll just be cynical and unhappy. Why would I want to be happy? Why do I deserve to be happy? No one else is. I mean, there's so many ways to look at something negative, but there's also infinite ways to look at something positive. I was reading an article where someone said there's zero evidence of extraterrestrial intelligent life. This person's laying on the bike path. Look at this. Wow, I can't believe that's so dangerous. I don't know why someone would lay there. Why not lay like off to the side, or I don't know. I lost my train of thought. It'll come back. Oh, that there was, okay, I was reading an article where someone said there's absolutely zero evidence of any extraterrestrial intelligent life that is at our level of intelligence or beyond it, right? Now, I grew up watching documentaries about what I'm going to call credible sources. Credible sources, right? To me, a credible source is, well, anyone can be a credible source, right? But when I hear of people like doctors, lawyers, people in the military, especially in really high positions, but especially anyone in the military at all, right? It could be the Air Force, any service where you serve, you know, there's like, it could be the Air Force, it could be the Marines, it could be Special Forces, it could be anything. And people come forward and say, we saw this craft right above us moving around, like, and it didn't appear to be moved through space. It just was like appearing here and then appearing there, like, so moving without seeming to move, just appearing there, like moving very, very fast, right? So now, to me, one of my first thoughts is, when someone says there's zero evidence, I'm just thinking, are they not aware of all of these interviews? From credible sources, right? Are they just not aware of that? And these are people, the person that said this is someone that is what I think of as a researcher, someone that studies a lot and reads a lot, but they don't read, I don't know if they read anything about the subject, about the subject of life in the universe, intelligent life. Now, just what I just said right now, intelligent life in the universe, makes me think of something else as well. It makes me think of how there's these shows that talk about life in the universe, but these shows won't even mention or show life that is beyond ours, that is a couple 100,000 years more advanced than us. I think it would be so fun to imagine that. How do we have so many shows that think of space, and we have CGI, computer generated imagery, we have the ability to create anything we can imagine, and not even go there? Even if there wasn't any life out there, it's still interesting to imagine what we might one day be in several 100,000 years. But all the evidence, if you look into the subject, and it's very well documented, by the way, extremely well. There was a pine cone right there in the road. If you hit one of those, it could take you down fast. Especially on a unicycle, I think. And especially on anything with two wheels as well. Okay. So, I've watched a lot of documentaries, and I don't watch all of them, okay? And I especially don't watch, how do I say this? I just go by my gut feeling. They say it's called the gut brain. So you have the brain in your head, right, between your ears, and we have the gut brain. And earlier I was talking about the body brain, right? The body brain, which is like when we think of muscle memory. But maybe that's not thought of as brain, right? Where muscles just learn something. Because like riding the electric unicycle feels like it's muscle memory to me. At least the way I learned to ride it. Okay, so, because I was using a shopping cart and just pushing it, allowing myself to get used to riding it. Okay, so we have star systems. I'm going to back up a little bit and say we have star systems that are a couple 100,000 years older than our star system, right? And these star systems have Earth-like planets. If the Earth-like planets are a couple 100,000 years older than our Earth-like planet, it's not hard to imagine that there could be life there that's a couple 100,000 years older than ours. Now, what is extremely fascinating about that is, how do they live? How do they think? How do they collaborate? How do they work together? How do they not fight with one another? And I was asking earlier in a previous recording, which you're probably, I don't know when it'll upload. It's uploading right now, but I don't know when it'll be done. Where I was talking about what percentage of our brain do we need to use so that we can stop fighting each other, right? Are we using 10% of our brain? And whatever percentage we are using now, how many more percent do we need to use so we can stop fighting each other and stop destroying our planet, right? Those are both important. And then also, furthermore, how much of our brain do we need to use? What percentage? And what percentage of the population, the world population, need to use this percentage so that we can collaborate and build solutions together, right? Okay, now, okay, so we have Let me think about this for a second. I'm going to share with you some of the experiences some of the stories that I thought were really interesting about what I'm going to refer to as extremely advanced intelligent life, far more advanced than ours, which could be at least several 100,000 years ahead of us, or far more than that. It could be much more than that. Now, in the military, when we were having wars and fighting in the air, like air fights and stuff like that, one of the things that were happening was, and this is very weird, instead of just calling them UFOs or calling them spaceships, which that's the words that most of us think of, right, when we think of extraterrestrial life, they made up this word that has, for most people, absolutely no meaning. And then people don't even know it's a UFO or an extraterrestrial, but they called them Foo Fighters. F-O-O, fighter, like a fighter, right? Like a fighter jet. So Foo, F like Frank, O like operator, O like operator. Foo Fighters. If you look that up, these were UFOs that traveled extremely fast and would fly around military airplanes and disable the weapons on the planes, disabling all different types of weapons and rendering them useless, not able to be used. Now that's significant. And I'll tell you something. One thing about the UFO community, and I'm talking about at extremely organized levels, is everything is documented to the letter. Every T is crossed, every I is dotted. I went to a meeting once. I don't remember what the group was called. Maybe like UPARS or something like that. Forgot the name of it. UPARS. I forgot what that stands for. It was something like that, or it was that. I went to a meeting, and this man spoke for hours. What this man did is he collected data, like research, from interviews of people that had experiences, right? I fell asleep, though, because, like, to me, I don't need to be convinced or told about experiences. I've already learned about this through documentaries growing up. What I'm interested in is actually going to the planets, meeting these different beings, finding a way to communicate. You know, I don't want to, like, face a camera up in the sky and see if I can get photos of one. I want to go learn what is reality to you. And I have to say, I'm going to keep saying this, what are we doing with our NASA and JPL space programs where we're not working on technologies that I can see? I mean, I don't know what they're doing. But it doesn't look like we're using technologies that are building technologies or working on technologies that can take us to other galaxies. And how come we can't go to the moon? I mean, I grew up hearing we're going to the moon, we're going to the moon. I mean, what I mean is we're going to be going to the moon daily, like trips to the moon, right? And now it's Mars and we're going to live there, and I'm just like, I mean, that sounds interesting. I mean, I'm more interested in the rest of the universe. Mars is interesting too, but not more interesting than other galaxies and other universes. Mars is in our solar system. Where's the technologies such as if you look up John Searle, I think I'm tired because I'm having trouble getting going here. Okay, let's see if I can do this. I have to really focus. If you look up John Searle, John, Searle is Searl, and I'm not sure if it ends with an E or not. John Searle, and the SEG generator or SEG pump, it's an electron pump. It flows electrons from the environment that are made by the sun, right? I think that's where they're coming from. electron pairs. It flows them, it pumps them through the system, through the machine. Magnetically, there's magnets, and there's copper wire. This machine runs at extremely efficient low power levels, but it generates like megawatts of energy just by spinning. Okay, it's cohering space, it's polarizing space, it coheres a magnetic force field that allows it to travel faster than the speed of light. Okay, so I've studied all this, and I am a beginner still. I don't know everything about it. But I always say that. No matter how much I know about something, I call myself a beginner because I need room to keep learning. I don't want to hit the end and go, oh, I'm done. No, thank you. Not interested in that. Interested in learning more. John Searle was he built, I think, 47 of these spaceships for wealthy people, wealthy businessmen, okay? And these ships can fly, theoretically, at warp speed, faster than the speed of light. And it's not hard to imagine that if those technologies were, and all the research was shared openly with these businessmen, that if someone's wealthy enough, they can go anywhere they want in the universe. And this is not something that the public is doing, that I know of, but can do if we want to build our own system, right? Like if I created a GoFundMe account and said I want to build a John Searle electrogravitic spaceship, starship, or galactic starship, people might put money in there and we could build something. And it's really important to know that John Searle's design, the last design he'd made that's all over the internet, it's important to know that his first crude, C-R-U-D-E, just a crude experiment that had anti-gravity properties. Now, when I say that, what I mean is it created a strong enough gravitational field that Earth's gravitational polarity, Earth's gravity field, pushed that field away, and blasted a hole in his ceiling roof of his house by loading it down. It's a generator. It's basically a generator running, and when he put a load on it, imagine like putting a 1500 watt load on like a toaster oven. It blasted right through the roof, through the ceiling, and through the roof, through the house. Left a big hole in the kitchen, and they never saw it again. It just kept going. That's because it was plugged into that energy in space, right? That Richard Feynman, who taught at Caltech for 37 years and won a Nobel Prize, talked about, right? Megawatts of energy in every cubic centimeter of space. Enough energy to boil all the Earth's oceans instantaneously. This is the infinite potential energy that we're talking about, okay? Now, all of our generators right now, my understanding is that all of our generators, all of our electricity, all of our lights are powered by space right here, the space that we breathe, right? The space that occupies the molecules that we call air and everything else that's in the air that we breathe, it's in space, right? You want to know something interesting about the material universe? This is a quote from Einstein. I'm paraphrasing, which means I'm interpreting and expressing at the best I can what I understand Einstein to be saying. The material universe, everything you see and everything we are, in material-wise, right, that we think of as material, is an extension of space. Space is like primary. We are secondary. Material is secondary. First, there's the energy, which Richard Feynman, Nobel Prize winner and Caltech professor for 37 years, Caltech Pasadena, right? Taught there as a professor for 37 years and won a Nobel Prize. Richard Feynman said, we do not know what energy is. We do not know what energy is. What is, imagine that. We don't know what energy is. We pay the electric bill. The power plant runs their generators, which is pumping that energy from the environment through the wires. Or it's pumping a signal through the wires that, if I say it this way, activates the energy in the ground wire of our homes. Right? That is something else that Robert agreed with, is that the energy comes from the ground wire. It flows from there. So what's the signal wire doing then? What's that other wire doing? And what is amperage? What is current? Current and amperage, right? Those the same thing? Current, amps. And what is it? It's resistance, right? If we think of Don Smith, who also continued the work of, guess who? Nikola Tesla. Don Smith said that our low frequency homes, which are 60 cycles per second, right? 50 and 60 cycles per second, is the unhealthiest thing that we could possibly do to our bodies. We want high frequency. High frequency stays on the outside of the skin, right? And everything runs more efficiently when it's high frequency. Okay, everything runs more efficiently when it's high frequency. Now, what kind of high frequency are we talking about? Well, Donald Lee Smith, he wrote the book. Well, Rick Friedrich assembled the book, the collected works of Don Smith, the life's works. The book is called Magnetic Resonance Energy Crafting Systematic Index. I'll say it again. Magnetic Resonance Energy Crafting Systematic Index. I think I said that correctly. So look up a YouTube channel, Rick Friedrich. Rick Friedrich is a researcher and a publisher. He likes to publish books. And he assembled the work of Don Smith. It's all in the book, Magnetic Resonance Energy Crafting Systematic Index. That book can be purchased on Amazon, and I think it's for a lower price if you get it directly from Rick Friedrich on his channel, on his website, which is r-charge.com. I think that's the website. I think it's .com. Double check that for yourself, please, if you're interested. So I was talking with someone a few months ago, well maybe I don't know if 8 months ago, 6 to 8 months ago, that was telling me a story about how they spoke with a CEO of, I don't know if it was General Motors or what company it was, but it was someone in a CEO position, like a very high position for a major automaker. Okay, we'll say that. And the automaker representative, I think that's the right way to say it, was, so the gentleman was asking the CEO, you know, when are you guys going to switch over to like solar cars? And now what does that mean? Am I talking about a car that's powered just by sunlight? No. I'm talking about, well, definitely check out the Aptera Motors car. Not because it'll ever be out, because I don't know if it will. My gut feeling is that it's not going to ever come out. I don't know why. I don't know what the company's doing. All you have to do is, I mean, I know it's easier said than done, but I think they should start delivering cars, you know. I feel like they're waiting for mass production, and that could never happen. If they run out of money, then they're done again, right? They've already been done once. How many times does a company have to fail before it succeeds? Why not just get a couple cars out there and just keep getting out as many as you can, and then, I don't know. What was I talking about? I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay, the gentleman I was speaking with that spoke with the CEO of a major automaker, he said, when are we going to start getting cars that utilize all the latest technologies in terms of efficiency, right? Efficiency. When are we going to get that? And the automaker said, we're not going to be doing that for at least another 40 years because we have loans, investments, and just so much invested in the present technology, meaning just the old combustion engine, right? And I have to wonder, is that why Toyota is saying we want to keep the combustion engine going by running it on hydrogen instead of gasoline? Because what I see is, I see the same car. It's with all the maintenance parts, right? A hydrogen engine still needs tune-ups, it has still all those hundreds of moving parts that wear out constantly, has a transmission with all those moving parts that wear out, all this maintenance, which makes companies money because they have to make those parts and they have to sell the parts, and then you have a dealership that does the work on it. And then we're back to, are they, like, to me, I'm thinking, are they going to only do work that I really, really need? And then there's words like preventive maintenance where you're like, oh, do I do it so it won't break? And it's like, oh my goodness. You know, it's just, and it goes right back to that gentleman that owns a auto parts store that was explaining to me that 80% of the mechanics out there are absolute crooks. He said that's just a reality, it's a fact. So you got 20% that are honest, and of that 20%, there's very few that are really, really looking out for you, if I say it that way, where they won't do work to your car. Like, you know what, you don't need that. You're okay. It doesn't need to be done. I've had mechanics tell me, look, I got to pay my bills, so if I need the money, I'm gonna make work for myself. You know, when you get to know someone and they open up to you about how they run a business. And that's open to interpretation. I'm just sharing with you what was said to me. But what is making work for yourself? I took my car once to have a transmission done, and the car left the shop needing more work than when I brought it in. And because I'm familiar with the mechanical parts, I said, look, it didn't need these parts before I brought it to you. And the person said, if I bring him the parts, he won't charge me to put them in. But he wouldn't admit to doing, to being the cause of those problems. Actually causing, for example, the boot on the axle was cut open. And it threw oil all over the car after I left the shop, the transmission shop. And he said it already needed that when I brought it in. I said, well, I said, look, we put the car up in the air, and we looked underneath the car before you did the work. And I said, there was no oil there. I said, you would have told me, look, your boot, this is leaking. You need an axle. And he didn't say that. So he was like, oh, okay, well, get the part and I'll put it on. I'm just like, oh my goodness. So that's something I like about electric cars, is it's like there's so many less maintenance parts that you still have to have a trustworthy mechanic. And if it's true that 80% of mechanics are dishonest or absolute crooks, as the person that I'm quoting said, that has owned and worked in the auto parts business his whole life, which is probably like 50 years. Anyway, positive things. I want to be positive here. I want to talk about something positive. Let's talk about something positive. Okay, so I don't know if this is positive or not, but I'm going to keep talking about the story where the gentleman was talking with the CEO, with this major automaker CEO. And he said, we're not going to be using the new technologies for at least another 40 years because we have to make our money. We have to pay these loans off and make our money off of the old stuff. And and that's why in some industries, like 100 years ago, like it's been explained, like when I volunteered at Plug in America, they said a lot of the people would explain to me that what was it, the horse and buggy. I don't know if I could tell you the story the way it was said to me, but the idea was that it was, how did they say it? The horse and buggy. I don't think they adapted to the combustion engine at the time, or electric. I don't know if they had electric or not. But it came from new companies. New companies built cars. It wasn't those old companies that were building carriages, right? Because it might be easy to think, oh, they're already building transportation. But they were invested in, I'm just doing like a thought experiment right now, right? Actually, this whole channel and everything I say is a thought experiment, so keep that in mind. Everything I say is a thought experiment. My life is a thought experiment, okay? How interesting is it that automobiles didn't come from the horse and carriage? They didn't come from the same companies that built horse and carriages. And they already were building things that rolled and that housed people and that were nice. So a new company would start up and just start fresh and build something new. And we're there right now. That's what the Aptera Motors vehicle is. But the problem is, I don't know what the problem is. Maybe that's the problem. The challenge is, how do you get these kind of cars like this, the Aptera Motors vehicle, right? How can one of those be actually delivered to a person? And how many new companies can start building a vehicle that is, I'll call it a variation of the Aptera Motors vehicle? What Aptera did to me is they showed what can be done. And people want that car so bad. They want to drive that car so bad. They are signed up on the list. They've been waiting 20 years. Aptera Motors first came out 20 years ago. They had a plug-in electric hybrid, a series hybrid, which had a gasoline engine generator that charged the batteries as needed as a range extender. Kind of similar, I think, to like the BMW i3, where it's an electric vehicle, but if you got low on charge, you could start up the gas engine. It would automatically start up, and you could drive it. And what else? Yeah. So it's going to take new companies. And Aptera has been doing this for, well, some people say 10 years, but I'm saying 20 because this is the second time around. And I think the people at the top of the company, like the people running it, are from the first company. Because people are like, oh, it's different. Like I read these articles where they're like, it's all different people. Well, I was reading a story about this company now, Aptera Motors, saying that, well, we learned a lot from our first mistakes that we made before. That sounds to me like they're saying they were there before, okay? I'm just saying. So I'm not trying to figure out, I'm not trying to figure out, like, is this the same people or not? I'm satisfied with them saying, yeah, we learned from the first time around. I'm satisfied with that. And where's all the other Aptera motor variation cars? I mean, there's a market for that. Does everyone just wait for Aptera to build the car and hope it gets delivered and no one's going to make anything else? And then once the car is on the road, then new companies will pop up with variations of that vehicle? I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. What makes sense is Aptera proved what can be done by building this car 20 years ago. Whether it's gasoline and electric or just electric like it is now, it still has the 40 miles range that I think it always had, if it's in the sunlight all day, right? Even if it went a mile on a solar, as long as it has solar on it, I'm happy. I like the look of solar. I like that look. I want solar everywhere. Every square inch of the body, I want solar in it. And I want solar on the interior too. I want solar on everything. The seats should even have solar on them. So when I'm not sitting in it, that's a charging area, right? Because the sun hits the seats. I mean, do I need to say that? Even the windows should all have solar on it, and I can have cameras that show me outside. That way the whole thing's just covered in solar, every square inch. Do I need to say all that? Well, I just did. So I think of myself as being too busy to start a car company like Aptera Motors, like start some variation of that, because there's so many things that I want to do and so many things I'm thinking about and working on. But I almost feel like, I've heard of people saying, it's like someone asked someone, why did you start this bike company or this motorcycle company or this car company? And they'll say, I didn't see what I wanted. I wanted this and I didn't see it. So I built it. I built what I wanted. And you know what we learned about people? If you like something, there'll be others that will like it too. And I'm just going to throw this in there, as long as it doesn't hurt yourself or others. I'm always going to add that, right? So yeah, the miles are adding up really fast on this links because I ride so much. Today, at the end of the day, I'll have ridden 100 miles because I did a 40-mile ride before this one. And now I'm doing a 55, 60-mile ride, or a 60-mile ride, right? Approximately. Excuse me. So now we're at Browns Creek Bike Path. Now this bike path is another example of a bike path that doesn't see, as you can see the growth right there, it doesn't get maintained enough. There was a time where the bushes were closing this path off. If you rode right in the middle, the bushes would hit you on both sides still. If you rode right in the middle right here. So imagine that. You can see it's overgrown a little bit right here. It's already blocking that side, which is a danger. Look, because that forces us onto the oncoming vehicles, right? This is a safety concern. Okay, this is Browns Creek Bike Path. That's Browns. Creek is Creek. If you want to call this in, I don't know who you call, but Browns Creek Bike Path. I think the area is, we'll get the streets up here. This could be more Captain Planet opportunities. I should probably start making videos that are titled Calling All Planeteers, right? Calling all Planeteers. And then people are always looking for a good deed to do, right? And your good deed can be helping cyclists and micromobility riders to keep these bike paths safe by keeping them clean and keeping the bushes trimmed back. See, right here I have to go into oncoming vehicles now, right here, see? And that can cause a crash if in the daytime especially. Or especially at night when you can't really see well if someone's coming the other direction. Now this had all homeless people here on both sides just a couple months ago. They keep coming back, but somehow they cleared them out. I'm not sure how they do that. But they were actually blocking the actual path. So I'm grateful that they were able to relocate the homeless people. I hope they were able to get them shelter. And I think that's the way they do it. I think they offer them a place to go. And I hope that's the way they're doing it. Okay, let me focus on what I'm doing right now. Crossing over. There's the kitties. Hi guys. Kitties are fast. Running 20 miles an hour. That's my new horn that I purchased recently on Amazon. And I think it was like $14 on sale. Regular price might have been $19. It's called the loudest horn in the world, I think. I'll make more videos on it. It's like 110 up to 140 decibels, probably depending on which siren you select. It has multiple set of selections, multiple choices. So I've had an opportunity to buy a scooter called the Tever Run, which I thought Mini Motors USA sold the Tever Run, the 35 amp hour battery one, but I think I just saw the 60 amp hour one. I didn't know they made a 60 amp hour Tever Run. That's really nice. But the voltage is low. I don't know why. Well, I don't know what the voltage is on the 60 amp hour. I have to check that. Because I know the Dualtron Storm Limited had fully charged, was a 95 volt battery at full charge, 95 volts and 45 amp hour. But the Tever Run I think is 72 volts at 60 amp hour, the one that has the larger battery, and that comes out to over 4,000 watt hours. I didn't even know that exists. That makes me, I'm like, a part of me is like, oh, I want to get a scooter again. Here's the thing though, a scooter is so much different than an electric unicycle. And I don't think I should get a scooter again. I'd like to just keep focusing on getting better and better at the electric unicycle. I'm so happy the sound's working well. I mean, it's really about talking with people and collaborating. Right? I built this solution that I'm right now experiencing and that you're experiencing as well. I built this solution as a teamwork. I feel like there's a wire right here. I don't know. I'm trying to feel what this is. Oh, okay. I built this solution by asking questions with people that knew more than myself. And that's a great way to learn. And then teach others what you know, right? Learning and teaching, learning and teaching. So I have a new helmet that I recently purchased. It's a used helmet, but it's beautiful. Can't wait to share it with you. I'll make some videos of that. And it's the Joe Rocket helmet, which matches my jacket. The name of it. And it's beautiful. It's like has gold color in it. Has designs that I like. I used to sometimes like to draw in class when I was in grade school. And I would like to draw. And the designs that I drew are similar, if not identical, to the designs on the helmet that I just bought. I bought the helmet used for a very good price. And I'm not wearing it on the electric unicycle yet because I actually don't want to scratch it and damage it. I feel like I'm still learning on the electric unicycle. I've only been riding for a couple months. And I was just talking with the gentleman tonight, earlier this evening, that said he took about 6 months until he felt comfortable on the electric unicycle. But listen to this. When he felt comfortable on the electric unicycle is when he crashed. He was going really fast, carving, and got speed wobbles. Which is interesting. I'll have to ask him about that because usually carving stabilizes the electric unicycle. It helps prevent wobbles. But somehow the electric unicycle wobbled while he was carving. But he said he was carving really hard, like really leaning, and I'll call it like high G-force, high G-force carving. And I think he broke his foot, or part of something on his toes, or part of his foot, and then slowed down after that. And also said I don't think he's interested in racing, because he was interested in racing before. I just want to take my time with getting better and better at riding this, and I want to learn more about turning. I want to get better at turning. So the way to get better at something is to practice it. Just like my talking in this video. Talking in this video, sharing my thoughts with you. I went to put my foot down and there was nothing there because the ground is curved right here. That was a very strange sensation and I almost fell. Talking in this video is helping me to formulate my thoughts, and it's helping to solidify what I'll call the journey of explorative thinking. The journey of explorative thinking. Okay? The journey of explorative thinking. The journey of the material that is thought experiments. Okay? Now when you hear these vehicles, the noise they make, the engines, I want to make very clear that is the sound of 90% of the energy in the fuel that you buy being wasted. There is a high price to make that sound, okay? That means if you're spending $5 on gas, right? Because the internal combustion engine is by the highest educated people that I've ever studied have said that the internal combustion engine is no more than 11% efficient. Okay? Now, if you look at I think it's the Department of Energy, I think they did a report on the internal combustion engine stating that the thermal inefficiency of the internal combustion engine is at least 60% inefficient. meaning that only 40% of the energy at most is moving the vehicle, and the rest is just heat. Now, the highest educated people that are like thermonuclear engineers that have studied the internal combustion engine, their calculations have indicated specifically that the internal combustion engine is actually not more than 11% efficient. Okay, so that means it's probably closer to like 10 or less percent efficient, right? Now, I know people are doing everything they can, using paper straws, bringing their own bags so we don't, but when do we stop wasting 90 cents out of every dollar to make noise and to make heat? Because you can put a bunch of mufflers on the car, so some cars are quiet, but it doesn't change the efficiency, the inefficiency of the vehicle. It doesn't change that. It's still wasting 90% of the energy. So I'm going to go back to something I was talking about before, and I'm going to say what percentage of the brain do we need to use when people say, oh, I'm not going to buy a vehicle that throws away 90 cents of every dollar I spend, and I'm only getting 10% of my money moves the vehicle. 90% makes heat and noise. Or if you muffle that noise, it just makes heat, but it's still making noise, you just don't hear it because it has mufflers. Right? If you take the muffler off, it'd be really loud. Think about how the internal combustion engine, if you took the water out of there, because they're water cooled, right? They use coolant, different kinds of coolant or water mixtures. You ever seen how fast one overheats? If you have a cooling problem with it, it overheats instantly. That's because these are heat engines, these are heaters. That's what they are. That's the main thing that's in all these vehicles. So my question is, one of my questions, what percentage of the brain do we need to use to say, oh, I'm not going to buy a car that throws away 90 cents of my money and uses 10 cents to move the car? What percent? There's two questions. What percentage of the brain? How much of the percentage of the brain needs to be used so that we make that decision, right? So that a human being can make that decision. And what percentage of the world population needs to use that percentage that we just talked about, so that we just go, oh, you know what? This just isn't a good idea. Let's move on. Because as long as we're waiting for someone to bring us a solution, this is the way I was raised. I was raised that you don't wait for solutions, you create solutions. If you wait for solutions, it's not going to happen. If you wait for someone else to do it. But we live in a world where you can do it. Okay? Even if someone tells you you can't, even if someone tells you it's impossible, even if someone tells you it breaks the laws of physics, right? That's what all the great discoveries have broken the laws of physics, all of them. Remember when they wanted to close the patent office? They said, oh, we've already discovered everything. Now, what does that mean? To me, it sounds like a person or a few people said, wow, look at this world we live in. We have everything. There's nothing left to make. We have it all. Let's close the patent office. We don't need patents anymore because there's nothing new that can be made. Now that's what I hear when I hear someone saying, you're violating the laws of physics. I hear someone saying, we don't need a patent office anymore. We know it all. We know everything already. There's nothing left. Oh boy. Goodness gracious, right? What does that mean? Figure of speech. What solutions can we build today together? How can we make the world a better place for everyone? Okay, let's make sure the camera's still recording. Yep, the red light's still flashing. I'm using my phone. When you see me do this with my phone, it's because I'm looking for that red light to be flashing in the reflection of the phone. So the phone's like a black mirror, right? Lets me look at the it lets me look at the camera that's attached to the helmet. It lets me see the red flashing light. And that way I know that I'm not just talking to myself, but I get to share my thoughts with you, which is meaningful to me, and it's important to me. To share, to co-create, to make things. What can we build today? What can we make together? Right? What can we make together? What can we make? What can we build? What can we imagine? Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge. Right? Imagination is more important than knowledge. I couldn't believe when I first read that. I thought to myself, I can't believe this. Einstein really gets it. He gets it. And that helped me understand that I didn't have to make up a whole new world in my mind that wasn't already being built by others. Like Einstein, you know. Imagination is more important than knowledge. It told me, it's like when someone says we know it all, or you're breaking the laws of physics. If someone says you're breaking the laws of physics, that breaks the laws of physics. Don't even think about that, because it breaks the laws of physics. Stop thinking about that, right, when someone says that. That's what I'm hearing when they say you're breaking the laws of physics. That's impossible. You're breaking the laws of physics. I'm like, okay, first of all, if you read a lot, you'll see that that's what's always been said. Throughout history, throughout documented history, all the big scientific breakthroughs, even small ones, were told that they're breaking the laws of physics. Did that stop the airplane from flying? Nope. But people got to get together and write up, figure out how the plane flew. It seems like I don't know, maybe it's built into us that we want to know everything. Maybe that's built into us. But here's the thing. If one single wave knows everything, it has a infinite information in it. One wave in space has infinite information. Information equals energy. What is information? What is energy? Question mark equals question mark. Do I need to have an answer to one or both parts of that question to travel to another galaxy, to travel to another star system to travel faster than the speed of light. I think it helps to think about the question. It opens up the imagination, it opens up the mind. For me, it's not about finding answers. I just love expanding, if I call it, the vocabulary of my questions. I love growing the questions, right?